Live from Melbourne, this is 7 Afternoon News with Rebecca Maddern.
Good afternoon. First at 4, police are boosting their presence on the ground in the search for missing Ballarat mum Samantha Murphy. Geordie Wright is in Bunningnong this afternoon, and Geordie, attention is turning to private properties 14 kilometres from the family home.
Beck, Samantha Murphy has now been missing for 6 days after she didn't return home from a run. Since then, there's been no trace of the mother of 3. For days, SES and volunteers in the community have been searching the Canadian state forest. But today, the missing persons squad focused their efforts on bushland and paddocks in the outskirts of Bunningnong, about 14 kilometres from her home.
We're in our 6th day of the operation. We've covered a lot of area so far, so we're just expanding our search area.
We have not identified any suspicious or sinister circumstances. However, we do hold significant concerns for Samantha's welfare at this stage, and that is growing as the days progress.
Detectives are still trying to collect data from her mobile phone and GPS watch that she took with her on her run to establish where she might have gone. Yesterday, we heard from her husband and oldest daughter, who made an emotional plea for any information into her disappearance. Today, the family hope the search may provide some answers. Beck.
Thank you very much, Geordie. Now to breaking news, and a truck fire has closed all outbound lanes on the Westgate Freeway, causing traffic chaos. Emergency services are on the scene working to extinguish the blaze, which unfolded near the Balti Bridge. Now, this is a live shot from the traffic chopper showing the significant congestion pushing back through that Domain tunnel, leading to 55-minute delays. Plus, motorists heading west are being told to detour through South Melbourne and enter the Westgate at Todd Road. 4 teenagers have been found responsible for stabbing a 16-year-old boy to death in a violent gang attack in Reservoir. Emotions were running high inside and outside court as the long-awaited verdict was handed down. Rochelle Brown has this story.
Declan Cutler's mother sobbed in court as 4 of her son's killers were found guilty of murder. His father embraced the prosecutor outside court after hearing the news. It took a Supreme Court justice just 5 minutes to deliver her verdict.
The prosecution has proved the elements of murder beyond reasonable doubt.
At the moment, we're happy with what we've got. I don't think any result's going to be good enough, to be honest.
Declan was alone in a dark street walking home from a party in Reservoir when he was ambushed by a gang of 8 boys armed with 4 knives. He was kicked, stabbed and stomped on in a frenzied 2-minute attack, one boy even stealing the 16-year-old's shoes as he lay dying on the ground. He suffered 56 stab wounds and 66 blunt force injuries. Declan was alone and unarmed. He was utterly defenceless. The closed-circuit footage has no sound, but it screams horror. Each of Declan's attackers were flanked by 2 heavily armed police officers as the judgment was read out. One yelled "damn bro" after he was escorted from the courtroom. 3 others are serving jail terms for their roles in the attack. A 13-year-old boy was found too young to be held criminally responsible. The 4 remaining teenagers will be sentenced at a later date.
An earthquake has rattled parts of Victoria awake just before 1 this morning. The 4.3 magnitude quake hit near Leongatha at a depth of 8 kilometres. It was felt over 130 kilometres away in Melbourne and as far as the NT and New Zealand.
In the first hour after the main event, we had probably half a dozen magnitude 2s or so, and we're having little 1s afterwards. You would expect aftershocks to continue for some time.
It's the second quake to hit Victoria this week, with a smaller 3.3 magnitude recorded just days ago. We'll cross to our reporter in Leongatha a little later in the news this hour. An innocent hairdressing business has been caught in the crossfire of Melbourne's tobacco turf war. The firebombing of a Caulfield South tobacco shop is now the 32nd attack being investigated by the state's Lunar Task Force. Ainsley Kosh has the details.
Emergency services were called to this Glen Huntley Road tobacco store after a passerby noticed the blaze just before 2:30 a.m. Firefighters battled the double-storey inferno as the fire quickly took hold and threatened nearby businesses. Crews managed to get it under control within half an hour, but the shop, which opened just 3 weeks ago, is destroyed.
I was literally shocked. I never thought it was going to happen to one of ours.
Residents in the upstairs unit were forced to evacuate. Luckily, no one was injured.
All the shop is gone. It's horrible.
A hairdressing salon next door has also been forced to close.
It's just wrong. What's happened next door has affected all of us. It's affected our business, but it's let all our clients down too. It's just wrong because of all the recent fire bombings with other tobacconists in the last year. It's just made us very, very nervous, and but we sort of said, well, whatever happens, happens as long as it doesn't affect us. But look, it's affected us now.
Arson chemists have spent the day scouring the scene for clues and bagging evidence. It's believed the offenders used a stolen car to ram raid the store before setting it alight and fleeing the scene in a getaway car. Detectives from Task Force Luna are investigating the blaze. The task force is in charge of probing crimes linked to the illicit tobacco trade. Detectives will investigate if this arson attack is linked to other recent fires in the area.
Bizarre footage has emerged of former Deputy Prime Minister Barnaby Joyce lying on a Canberra footpath late at night swearing into his phone. The clip that's been widely circulated begins after Joyce fell off a pot plant while on the phone to his partner Vicky Campion. The Nationals frontbencher told 7 News he was swearing at his own clumsiness and questioned why nobody stopped to give him a hand. Tens of thousands of Vline passengers are being told to avoid catching the train on Monday as workers plan to walk off the job. 80 services have been cancelled with no Vline trains operating before 8 a.m. and only limited replacement buses.
All lines will be affected across the network, and in terms of coach replacement services, we recommend that passengers keep checking our website for the latest developments.
The rolling strikes are expected to impact travellers on Friday and the following week as Vline staff fight for better pay and working conditions. Construction of a new home for the Hawthorn Footy Club received high-profile help from the Prime Minister today. The elite Dingley headquarters should be finished by the end of next year. Blake Johnson was there.
The new home of the Hawks is taking shape on this hill in Dingley. This enormous site will be the new home for the Hawks men's and women's teams. And today the Prime Minister and Attorney General inspected the very early stages of construction of the $113 million project.
Yeah, indoor stuff you're going to have there too.
Yep, so that'll be warm-up facility, kicking, quite a large indoor kicking area.
As John Kennedy used to say, it's not enough to think or hope, you have to do something. And indeed, this is doing something here.
Wow.
The Kennedy Community Centre will be a game changer. Not only will it safeguard our football club's future, but also create a long-term home for our past players, our members, our fans, and the total community here.
This is an extraordinary facility because it's where community sport is played side by side with elite athletes.
What happens to the club's current home at Waverley is a little unclear. The grandstand is heritage listed.
We'd like to have a presence there. We're not sure what will happen to Waverley, so we have ownership of it, whether we lease it out, whether we sell it.
The Hawks plan to move here at the end of next year, hopefully ready in time for the 2026 season.
Thank you, Blake. Queen Camilla has given a health update on King Charles during her first appearance since his cancer diagnosis. Her Majesty met well wishes during a music event at Salisbury Cathedral, which was celebrating the work of local charities.
He's doing extremely well under the circumstances, and he's very touched by all the letters and messages. All the public has been sending from everywhere. That's very cheering.
Senior royals are expected to step up their public appearances as King Charles undergoes treatment. The Premier has been brought to tears while announcing new funding for regional paediatric hospitals. Millions of dollars from this year's Good Friday appeal will be split between 5 regional health services for the first time. The funding will see some of our sickest children receive the care they need much closer to home.
you go to the Royal Children's Hospital for sometimes the toughest of times in your life, and you receive amazing care. Sorry, I wasn't going to do this 2 days in a row.
And Peter Mitchell will bring you heartwarming stories from the families who benefit from the appeal tonight in our news at 6 o'clock. Well, still to come, the impact of Airbnbs revealed with 50,000 homes stripped from the market during our rental crisis. Plus, why Joe Biden has been labelled too old to face potential criminal charges. A bikini battle heats up as beachgoers rally against calls to limit swimwear to the sand. And later, Hollywood at the Children's Hospital as an Australian superstar delights sick kids. We've got a big hour of news ahead. Please stay with us. Joe Biden has been described as an elderly man with poor memory in a damning report into his handling of classified documents. While it found criminal charges aren't necessary, it left the president to fiercely defend his own mental well-being. David Woywood reports from the US.
The long-awaited report by Special Counsel Robert Hur concludes that no criminal charges against President Biden are warranted, but it uncovered evidence that the president willfully retained and disclosed classified materials after his presidency when he was a private citizen, including marked classified documents about Afghanistan and notebooks with sensitive intelligence sources and methods, which the report says posed serious risks to national security. The Special Counsel's report offers scathing details of what it calls the president's diminished faculties and faulty memory, writing, if charged, Mr. Biden will likely present himself to the jury, as he did during his interview with our office, as a sympathetic, well-meaning, elderly man with a poor memory. It would be difficult to convince a jury that they should convict him.
I'm well-meaning and I'm an elderly man and I know what the hell I'm doing. I've been president. I put this country back on its feet.
According to the report, Mr. Biden did not remember when he was vice president, forgetting on the first day of the interview when his term ended, and forgetting on the second day of the interview when his term began. He did not remember even within several years of when his son Beau died.
How in the hell dare he raise that? Frankly, when I was asked the question, I thought to myself, it wasn't any of their damn business.
The former president is calling the lack of charges in the Hur report a two-tiered system of justice, but the report argues the two cases are different, and that while Mr. Trump was given multiple chances to return classified documents, he allegedly did the opposite and obstructed justice by enlisting others to destroy evidence. In contrast, the report says Mr. Biden alerted authorities. In the United States, David Woywood, 7 News.
New data is laying bare the impact Airbnbs are having on Victoria's housing market. Almost 50,000 properties are currently listed as short-stay rentals. That means 1.6% of the state's housing pool is now unavailable for long-term renters. It's having a bigger impact on holiday hotspots and in the city. More than 10% of houses on the Surf Coast, Alpine and Hepburn areas are sitting empty for holiday makers and 5% for Mornington Peninsula and the CBD. Joining us is Regional Australia Institute's Chief Economist, Dr Kim Horton. Kim, good afternoon to you. Airbnb says short-term rentals are not causing the housing crisis, but 50,000 houses is a significant number considering how many people are struggling to find a rental, would you say?
Yes, it is a significant number. We know there's a major shortage of housing, particularly in regions. I think that the issue with Airbnb is it's really reduced, that the platform has reduced the transaction costs so that a lot more owners can put a room or a whole house onto the market.
OK. The crisis has prompted the state government to promise to build 80,000 homes every year for 10 years. Would releasing some of these properties from Airbnb relieve some of that pressure?
I think we've really got to look at what these properties are and where they are. There's a big spatial density issue with Airbnbs. It really does concentrate on typically on a few streets in a few towns, particularly regional towns, whereas the regional shortfall in accommodation is absolutely across Victoria. That really requires a bit of a rethink from the state government about what growth should look like across Victoria as a whole.
Yeah. The Institute is urging local councils to incentivise landlords to put their properties on that long-term rental market instead. How would you see that working? Do you think that's actually sustainable?
I think any sort of financial, adding to those financial costs for people that are doing a short-term rental will start to bring the level of that offering back to what it was before those platforms. What you don't want to do, though, is throw babies out with bathwater, because in a lot of our regional places, those rooms, less so the houses, but those rooms are bringing accommodation for professionals, for tradies who are coming to those places for short periods and making use of that facility.
Yeah, and look, on the flip side of this, Airbnb, for example, is a form of income for a lot of people. So how do we balance that short-term rentals with the need for that long-term housing?
Yeah, people are playing the market, aren't they? They're doing those calculations around the kitchen table. If they think they can get more out of renting the property for, you know, those peak weekends across the year rather than renting it long term, they'll do that. The other thing, of course, with the Airbnbs, they have added to the stock of rooms in those hotspot tourist destinations, so they are bringing quite a lot more visitors and visitor nights to those places too. So again, putting a choke on those might be a bit of a backward step for some of those places that have welcomed a bit of a growth in their tourist infrastructure in recent years.
Yeah, OK, really interesting. We'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much, Dr Kim Hawthorn, this afternoon. Thank you.
Thanks, Beck.
A rally has been held on the Gold Coast this morning calling to free the peach. Women in bikinis and men in budgie smugglers gathered in protest of calls from the local charity founder to ban G-string swimwear when not on the beach.
The fact that it's been sexualised and so much attention has been brought to it is really disheartening, because I think we're in a generation where we just want to be free.
The group says the bikini is part of the Gold Coast culture, but education is needed to discuss where it is appropriate to wear them. Coming up next, a Tiger star opens up on his forward switch as Richmond makes waves in Mildura for their pre-season camp. Plus basketball royalty on hand to pay tribute to an NBA legend, and a cop commandeers an e-scooter to track down a thief on the run. You don't want to miss that story and more coming up next. Live from Melbourne, you are watching 7's Afternoon News. Looks beautiful outside. 21. Jane Bunn will be here with a forecast a little later in the hour. Time now for sport, though, with Andrew McCormack. A key clue has been revealed for Collingwood's forward line plans.
That's right, Beck. A young Magpie is in the mix for a season opening spot for the reigning premiers. Reece McInnes was given first crack in the Pies' starting forward six during a brief 20-minute dress rehearsal this morning. Braden Maynard completed his session as he recovers from pre-season shoulder surgery. North Melbourne's Cam Zurhaar heads into 2024 out of contract.
Yeah, I'll be rolling through the mid, half forward and a bit of full forward as well. So, yeah, a bit of everywhere, I guess.
Zurhaar is one of the sought-after free agents in this year's trade market. Richmond headed to the local pool on the final day of its pre-season camp up in Mildura. Noah Bolter's move to attack may only last until Tom Lynch returns from his foot injury.
Me and Cozzy have been working really well together, doing heaps of work together, heaps of vision together. So, slowly growing.
Lynch is aiming to return against the Blues in Richmond's second match of their season. Lance Morris and Cameron Bancroft have both been left out of the Australian Test squad for this month's tour of New Zealand. Michael Neser is the one new addition from the West Indies series. Morris would have been left out of the squad regardless of the side injury he picked up in the final one-dayer in Canberra, but could be a last-minute call-up.
We're probably looking at a different type of fast bowler. I guess the luxury of this tour only being in New Zealand, it's not a massive trip.
Australia begins its T20 series against the West Indies in Hobart tonight. Two Victorian young guns have helped Australia set up another World Cup final against India. Harry Dixon and Ollie Peake top scored in the under-19 semi-final. The Aussies needed 3 runs to win with just 1 wicket in hand.
And now finally goes to chase, doesn't get it, and only the coolest heads prevail here in Benoni.
They'll take on India on Sunday night in South Africa. Tom Straker was named man of the match for an incredible 6-wicket haul. A clutch 3-pointer and a cat on the court. Australia's Olympic qualifier against Brazil had just about everything. The Opals moved a step closer to a spot in Paris with some big plays at both ends of the floor late in the fourth quarter.
Tess knows it. She gallops to the rim and puts it in and puts this puppy to bed.
The Opals must finish in the top 3 of their pool back home Melbourne United centre. And NBA hopeful Ariel Hook-Porty reveals he's been playing through badly damaged front teeth for the past 3 weeks after a training accident last month. Beck, that's all for sport.
Terrific. Thank you very much, Mecca. Well, the police officer has commandeered a civilian's e-scooter in the pursuit of an alleged thief. Body cam vision captures the officer taking off down the road before cornering the suspect as he struggled beneath a fence.
Put your hands behind your back. Put your hands behind your back. Come out here, put your hands behind your back.
A 40-year-old man has since been charged with stealing and breaching bail. We are approaching 4:30. Today's headlines are next, including police put more boots on the ground in the search for a missing Ballarat mum. Will cross to the scene live next. Plus, an earthquake rattles Melbourne on both sides of the world. We explain why next. The RBA boss hints at more rate rises if the fight against inflation changes pace. And Melbourne's childcare staff set to walk off the job. How it will impact working families next. You are watching 7's Afternoon News live from Docklands.
Live from Melbourne, this is 7 Afternoon News with Rebecca Maddern.
Hello again, returning to our top story now, and the missing persons squad is taking over the search for Ballarat mum Samantha Murphy 6 days on from her mystery disappearance. Geordie Wright is in Buninyong for us this afternoon. Hello, Geordie. The search zone has expanded from the forest to private properties beyond that running range.
Beck, the search has widened as concerns grow with each day that passes. Since Samantha's disappearance, SES crews and volunteers from the community have been searching the Canadian state forest, but today the missing person squad shifted the focus further south, scouring bushland and paddocks on the outskirts of Buninyong, about 14 kilometres from her home. Police say they are still working with Samantha's telecommunication provider to collect data off her phone, but have reiterated their investigation hasn't suggested any foul play.
We're in our 6th day of the operation. We've covered a lot of area so far, so we're just expanding our search area.
We have not identified any suspicious or sinister circumstances. However, we do hold significant concerns for Samantha's welfare at this stage, and that is growing as the days progress.
Detectives say the mother of 3 was last sighted in her driveway, but they haven't been able to track her movements from there. They're urging everyone in their community to check their dash cam footage from Sunday morning for any clues that could help answer where her whereabouts are, Beck.
OK, Geordie Wright, we'll leave it there. Thank you. Well, 4 young gang members have been found guilty over the stabbing murder of a 16-year-old boy in Reservoir. Declan Cutler was walking home from a party alone when he was ambushed by the armed teenage boys and stabbed more than 50 times. The 4 teens will be sentenced at a later date. 3 others are already behind bars for their roles in the attack, while a 13-year-old was found too young to be held responsible. The Reserve Bank Governor, Michelle Bullock, has appeared before the House for the first time in her new role. As political reporter Ben Downey reports, she remained tight-lipped about when interest rates could start to fall.
No, unfortunately, the challenges for the Australian economy are far from over. But there is some good news. When questioned about rate cuts, the Governor says the bank doesn't need to wait for inflation to fall beneath 3% before the board cuts rates, but it does need to be near certain it will get there. She outlined despite inflation falling from 7.8% to 4.1%, driven by slowing rises in the price of goods, the costs of services remain high. And while expectations are certainly not drifting up, she didn't rule out further rate rises to curb inflation if circumstances changed, saying as bad as high interest rates are, high inflation is far worse. There are circumstances overseas that could lead to the board being forced to raise rates, and while Ms Bullock says our economy is well prepared for shocks, she did specify a few areas of concern.
There are some things out on the horizon that, are worrying. On the upside, there's lots of conflicts that could result in supply chain issues arising again. There's also, as we discussed, China, and it's slowing, so that might be on the downside.
Economists and markets still expect there to be cuts this year, but even August is looking a bit too optimistic. The only certainty looking forward is no immediate relief for households.
Thank you, Ben. More than 1,000 early childhood centres will close their doors on the 8th of March as educators around the country strike. Joining us is Helen Gibbons from the United Workers Union. Hello, Helen. Just how many educators do you expect will stop working?
We know that thousands of educators across the country are really keen to get an answer to their pay crisis that has been affecting them for years. They're going to be looking hard at whether they are able to walk off the job and get a really clear message to the federal government about funding better wages.
Helen, what kind of impact will this have on families, given many, particularly working mums, rely on that childcare in order to maintain employment?
Parents have been enormous supporters of early educators. They want to see their educators paid well as well. So that's why educators are giving parents 1 month's notice to work with them to make sure that they can lessen the impact of the shutdown as much as possible. But parents want to see a solution to this as well. They can't afford to see their educators leaving the sector over and over again.
March the 8th is obviously International Women's Day. Why are workers taking the action on that particular day?
Educators thought that that was the best day to really demonstrate that this is a chronic undervaluation of the work that they do. And historically, it's because it's been seen as women's work. 92% of the sector who work in the sector are women, and they're really calling for a better recognition for the important work that they do. And International Women's Day seemed like a really powerful day to make that point, that they should be valued for the work that they do. And if they aren't, they're going to continue to be leaving.
Helen, the early education sector has been in crisis for quite a while now. At what rate, can you bring us up to date, are educators leaving the industry?
They are leaving across the country in absolute droves. There's thousands and thousands of job ads at the moment for early educators. I think you could walk into any centre in the country and they would be crying out for staff. And we know that parents are being turned away. They're not able to get the days that they want. Sometimes they're even getting a phone call to say, you can't bring your child in today because too many people are sick. We can't find staff. This is getting worse and worse and worse.
Taking that into consideration then, what will it take to save the sector?
There's a lot of things that need to be fixed in early education, but the number one issue that educators say in every survey, every time they've been asked, is their pay. They are paid an appalling rate considering their skills and responsibilities, their qualifications, and the enormous commitment that they bring to the job. So before we fix anything else, we have to fix their pay, and that will attract people back to the sector that they love, and it will keep the people that are currently working in the sector doing the work that they're so good at.
Helen Gibbons from the United Workers Union, appreciate you coming on the show this afternoon.
Thank you.
Well, thousands of Victorians have had a rude awakening rattled by a 4.3 magnitude earthquake just before 1 a.m. In a bizarre coincidence, Mother Nature also struck 16,000 kilometres away in our namesake city. Here's Bethan Yeoman.
This small town in Gippsland with a population of less than 800 people is the epicentre of last night's quake, and everybody felt it. It hit Menion just before 1 a.m, registering 4.4 on the Richter scale, rattling shelves and knocking products off the walls of the local shops. More than 5,500 people made reports online saying they felt or heard the tremors from Sunbury to Wilson's Promontory, some even in South Australia and Tasmania.
I was fast asleep and suddenly there was this big bang. The whole house shook. In fact, my bed moved.
We feel earthquakes a lot greater distances in Australia than they do in other parts of the world. It's because our plate is hard rock and cold, and that transmits that earthquake energy a lot further.
In October last year, a magnitude 5 earthquake struck the Great Ocean Road near Cape Otway, causing tremors right across the city. And in 2021, a massive 5.9 magnitude quake hit Melbourne, causing a restaurant to collapse on Chapel Street during peak hour. Seismologists say that earthquake was the largest ever recorded in the state, measuring 50 times stronger than last night's tremor.
Australians are paying the price for accessing their own money, the hidden cost of tap-and-go payments next, plus why a music megastar could be banned from coming to Victoria. A two-time Australian Olympian officially joins the doping-driven enhanced games, and a volcano roars to life in Iceland. See all the incredible pictures next. That's just a taste, literally, of what's still to come here on 7 News. Kanye West may have to rethink plans to travel to Victoria after the Premier made it clear the US rapper isn't welcome here. Jacinta Allen firmly shut down concert hopes after Mr West made a series of anti-Semitic comments.
That sort of behaviour has no place in our great state, and, I don't think that individual will be particularly welcome either.
Kanye West has hinted at an Australian tour in 2025. It will be up to the federal government to approve his visa. New research suggests Australians are paying a heavy price just to use their own money. Shoppers are spending an estimated $140 a year in surcharges on tap-and-go payments as a growing number of businesses go cashless.
There's no benefit to the merchant because they're not allowed to surcharge any more than what it costs them. But it's what it's costing them, which is the problem, and that's increasing.
Card surcharges are now a $4 billion industry for banks and other companies that provide payment terminals at shops. Two-time Olympian James Magnussen says he will take performance-enhancing substances for a shot at more than $1 million. That's the prize money on offer if he breaks a world record at the proposed enhanced games, where athletes can freely take drugs while competing. Chris Reason explains.
Good afternoon. Well, some are calling it history-making, others are saying it is insane. But either way, it looks to be happening. And for $1 million, former Australian swim champion James Magnussen is leading the charge. The dual Olympian multi-medalist, former world champion, is coming out of retirement to take up the challenge to be the first athlete in the world to agree to take performance-enhancing drugs to try and break the 50-metre freestyle record. 6'7", 32-year-old Magnussen knows it's controversial, but he admits the money on offer was just too good to ignore. He says he's, quote, ready to juice himself to the gills and go for the money.
I have to do this meticulously to make sure that I'm not affecting my body for the rest of my life. $1 million is nice in 2024, but what does that mean when I'm 60, 70, 80 years of age?
It's all part of a deal being offered by the so-called Enhanced Games Project, a team of businessmen, sports scientists and doctors who say they want to unleash the full potential of humankind to test how fast and how far the human body can go using drugs. It's controversial, condemned by many, but the organisation insists it will be backed by rigorous science and safety procedures. Australian-born businessman Aaron D'Souza says the athletes in his competition will dope out in the open, and honestly, steroids not only allowed but also encouraged. The Enhanced Games team says they've so far had over 4,000 athletes approach them. They hope to stage their games sometime next year. Back to you.
Thank you, Chris. A volcano has erupted in Iceland for the third time since December, spurting lava streams up to 80 metres into the air. Smoke from the eruption could be seen in the capital 40 kilometres away. Dramatic video shows the moment a digger was nearly overwhelmed by the molten rock and had to abandon the bank as it was building. Local authorities have declared a state of emergency after flowing lava disrupted heating to homes in the area. Well, still to come, it's World Pizza Day. We drop into one of Melbourne's most iconic pizzerias to take a look at their inner workings. Plus, the Aussie star power bringing joy to 6 children in hospital, and Jane Bunn will have your all-important weekend weather forecast. Welcome back now for a good excuse for a yummy dinner. It is World Pizza Day. Let's cross to Giulio Felitti at DOC Pizza and Mozzarella Bar in Carlton. Giulio, it must be your favourite day of the year. How are you?
Very well, thank you. It is one of my favourite days indeed. What a great day for us to have a pizza.
Let's launch straight into this. What is the secret to a good pizza?
Well, there are certainly many secrets, I would say, down to starting for our pizza dough, which is fermented for 72 hours, then to utilize the best ingredient on the market, imported from Italy, like our mozzarella, tomatoes, and flour. And I would say everything has to be complemented from great knowledge, a lot of passion, and a lot of love to make it a great pizza.
Indeed, love. I knew you were going to say that somewhere. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the most, I don't know, let's say bizarre requests you've ever received for a pizza?
Well, we've been open and trading for in the past 20 years, and personally I've been working here for 8 years. I can tell we see them all. Well, for sure. Well, it comes up in my mind once this guy asked to make his own pizza. I thought he wanted to choose his own ingredient, and actually it came up. He wanted to do actually his own pizza from scratch. So funny enough, I invited him into the kitchen, and he tried to stretch his first pizza, and came up. And it turned up, it was harder than he thought, and then give up after even 3 seconds, no problem, even 3 seconds, he couldn't even open it. Oh. And that was pretty fun indeed.
Now, while I have you, look, this is controversial, I know. I like, I don't know if I should say this out loud, I like pineapple on pizza. Is that a yes or a no?
There we go. Pretty common question, but in this day, I would say it's still a big taboo. I know there are so many good places, even in Italy, they use pineapple on pizza because I understand the point of having a great contrast between sweet and sour. But I believe I'm speaking for the majority of Italian, and for me still is a no. But okay. I'm not judging. Thank you.
How many pizzas do you think you'll get through today on World Pizza Day? It's a big night ahead.
Well, big night ahead, it is indeed. We're probably gonna suss us on the 500, 600 pizza for today. Hopefully more.
All right. Now, Julio, I haven't planned dinner, but you've just planned dinner for me. It is pizza all round.
Give it a go.
Julio, thank you so much, and happy World Pizza Day. You make the best pizzas in Carlton. Thank you, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Enjoy your day.
Thank you. Well, Hollywood actor Margot Robbie has paid a special visit to some young fans while back in her home state. The Barbie star visited the Queensland Children's Hospital, meeting kids undergoing cancer treatment. Robbie is back in Australia to attend the ACTA Awards on the Gold Coast tomorrow night. Well, over to our traffic chopper now for an update on the Westgate Freeway truck fire.
Good afternoon, it's James in the Tasman Butchers traffic chopper. The Westgate Freeway absolutely crawling outbound due to a truck fire. It's currently blocked off right at the Balti with traffic using the emergency lane to squeeze past. It's heavy going all the way back out to Yarra Boulevard on the Monash Freeway with Dandenong Road, Queens Road and Kingsway heavy with people detouring. Tasman Butchers source directly from local farmers and prepare their meat fresh in store every day to bring you the widest range of quality cuts. Visit tasmanbutchers.com.au. Have a great weekend.
Thank you so much, James, and Jane Bunn joins us now. Jane, it is warming up for the weekend.
Beck, Saturday afternoon is looking warm, then it is hot on Sunday. It was a grey morning across most of Melbourne, clearing to sunshine during the afternoon. In a gusty southerly wind, we didn't drop below 18 overnight, then it didn't rise over 21 in the city. 24 was the best we could do, most peaked at 22. There was local drizzle under that morning cloud, especially around Avalon and the Dandenongs. The afternoon sunshine was pleasant if you were out of the wind. Cloud thickened over southern Victoria thanks to a cold front crossing Tasmania. That made it cooler in the southwest, but still nice in much of Gippsland, and the cooler air didn't reach the north. We have a cold front to our south and a trough to our north, but we're kept on the dry side thanks to a ridge of high pressure. That has spent much of the week centred back over to our west, keeping us on its cool side. Now tomorrow, that high, here it goes, moving out to our east. It should remain there for for a few days. So tomorrow is mild to warm in the south, warm in the north. Gippsland may see a light morning shower. That's all. The generally dry weather continues. The heat is on from Sunday, both north and south, as winds flick northerly. The heat increases early next week, turns to extreme heat in the far northwest. It breaks on Tuesday. That's a hot and gusty day before thunderstorms and a cool change, crossing central parts in the afternoon and the east at night. All over by early Wednesday, then we're back on the cool side of the high and generally dry. Around the nation tomorrow, Brisbane and Sydney have showers passing through. Canberra should be dry on the edge of that activity. Hobart is looking dry and mild. Sunny and warm in Adelaide, while Perth is in a heat wave. To Victoria, in Gippsland, there is the odd shower brushing the coast in the morning, then a fairly cloudy day. But through the north and west, temperatures rise, bright sunshine all day in the north and in the afternoon for the southwest. Winds are east to southeasterly, breezy to strong in Gippsland. So in Melbourne, cloud does return overnight. We do have a grey start. Quickly clears to bright sunshine and should rise to 27 tomorrow, Beck.
OK, thank you very much, Jane. And that is all from Melbourne's afternoon news. Thank you very much for joining us. I'll be back alongside Mike Amor from 6 tomorrow. We'll see you then.